Okay, let's get everything set up in here. It's been so long since I've been on a stream, on a live stream, that I actually am reminding myself how to do all this, how to set it up the right way. Let me know if you can hear me wherever you may be in the world. Welcome in. Tonight is simply a special broadcast, a special message that I really wanted to share with you. It's not a deep dive, but it is a conversation on the phantom and on this concept that we call the gap. And so as you go ahead and fill into the room, okay, Christy's in this baby. What's going on, Christy? Welcome in. Christy's saying, I can hear you. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Excellent, excellent. Welcome. How was your summer? By the way, throw that in the chat, because if it was like mine, it was like so busy. And that's a part of what this conversation is about. Is when I jump into it, we start talking about the gap. It's going to seem like such a little small thing, but then you see that it's so much. It's these phantoms that we create. It's so important to recognize what gives rise to them in the first place. And so that's what we're talking about tonight. Dee Dee is in this baby. Okay, Dee Dee Sharon, welcome in. Welcome in. Okay, so Christy's saying summer was great, and yes, so busy back in Chicago. Okay, now you say back in Chicago, it's got to be like 20 degrees right now. What is it? I imagine it's super cold. So there really is, for this conversation, I'm waiting for, folks to kind of go ahead and file in the room, but there's so much that's been going on in terms of these downloads that I've been receiving from Spirit over the summer and up until now. And I mean, it's continuous, obviously, but this summer was very special for reasons we're about to jump into. Okay, Christy's saying not bad yet, 60s. That's not okay. Y'all got about a week. Excellent, excellent. And so I'm going to jump straight into this because this summer, I spent the entire summer, almost all of it, working on what I believe is the premier program on earth for controlling your spiritual mind. Setting it all up, getting it in such a way that I could take all of the systems and deploy them in such a fashion that they actually are usable and useful to you, easy to understand and gather within seconds. That was my whole MO this summer. And so all the iterations of doing this, basically making this process legible, I kept running into challenges. Some of those challenges were challenges with finding the appropriate people to market it. Other challenges were challenges with how to present it. And so I ran into this thing called the gap. It's so fascinating. Check this out. I'm reading this book. It's called 10X is Easier Than 2X by Dan Sullivan and Ben Hardy. Highly recommend it. Highly recommend this one, because in it, Sullivan and Hardy are talking about this phenomenon called the gap, where entrepreneurs, you can have a great year and still believe that it wasn't as good as it should have been. You didn't do as well as you should have done, that you didn't accomplish as much as you should have. You understand? And that seems like, that's almost like a badge of honor in this culture, to be able to say, I could have did so much more. But what happens is that the gap, simply defined, is the difference, the distance between your ideal, what should be, and where you are. Your ideal of what should be and where you are. That's the gap. Now, the issue is that when people get stuck in the gap, let's say it's with entrepreneurship, what happens is that by saying, okay, well, we didn't do as good as we should have done, you overlook all the wonderful things you and your team did do. You overlook all that. And so devalue it. And having devalued it, you weaken team morale and basically destine everyone for future issues. Because people, the references, all of the confidence building references have been stripped out. People don't believe in themselves because they're judging themselves against an ideal. And so it always looks like they should have been more. In other words, they always look like they're not enough. That's the difference. It always looks like it should have been, they should have given more, should have made fewer mistakes, should have, whatever the case is, but that the net of that is you're not enough. That's the gap. And the gap is corrosive. It weakens the team. But I mean, taking it out of the entrepreneurship category, the gap is also what weakens relationships. How many times have you been in the gap with your parents, with a mother or a father, whatever? They should have done more. They should have been more to me. Things should have been easier. We blame them for circumstances, for situations, for mistakes that they made and miss all the things that they did right. And the issue with that is that once we turn that criticism onto another, it is only a matter of time before that criticism becomes reflected back in our own lives, before that criticism becomes, that voice of criticism gets turned back on ourselves. And so as it's saying this, as I'm reading all of this, I'm like, hey, this makes me think about spiritual responsibility and the whole concept of phantoms. I'm gonna get to that in just a second. We got people on here. Yolanda's saying, boom, let's see. It says, thank you. It's not, okay. All right, so I got to send the link to this live to a few people real quick. So give me just a second. I'm going to see if I can do that. Let's see. All right, I'm going to share this. Here we go. People on the email list are saying they did not get the link. So I'm about to say, try this one instead. Okay. All right, we should be good. So if you are just tuning in right now, we're getting back to understanding how to do lives. Okay, so Kamar is in. Welcome in, Kamar. Okay, all right. I'm like working the keys once more, figuring out how to do this. Okay, excellent. So if you're just joining in, we're talking about this concept called the gap that comes from the book 10x is easier than 2x. I really would recommend that. Particularly if you're an entrepreneur, whatever you're doing, I would recommend reading this book. The gap, of course, is the distance between the ideal that we have of a person, a place, a thing, a goal, doesn't matter. The distance between the ideal and where we are right now. And in that gap is a trap. If you fall in it, if you're judging every single thing in your reality based on an ideal, as Sullivan and Hardy talk about, and it's so good that they're mentioning this, the ideal, the problem with an ideal is that it's always forever moving out into the horizon. It's always like it's like a horizon line. You can't ever approach it. Right? So when you're chasing an ideal, think about it. The moment that you achieve a certain goal, you get the person of your dreams, or you get the client that you always wanted, or you get the business that you get the whatever, you get the family that you always wanted. You're going to start setting new goals, which means you're going to start judging yourself against new ideals. And if the habit of judging yourself against ideals is never addressed, then for every new ideal, every new goal that you get comes with it an entire forest of hell, right? It comes with it an entire litany of problems, because now whatever that new goal is, it's reminding you that you haven't got it yet. You're in the gap. And so I'm reading this thing on the gap and I'm like, yo, that's so crazy. It's kind of like the concept of phantoms. The concept of phantoms from Spiritual Responsibility. I'm on page 116. If your copy is near you, turn to 116. I'm reading from the top of the page. I call these types of thoughts, usually connected with an emotional experience, phantoms. Phantoms are recurring negative thought patterns. What's that got to do with the gap? Well, phantoms are all the scenarios you run in your head about what a situation could have been, would be, or mean to you had it only been different. So what happens is that we get into what Hardy and Sullivan are calling the gap. I'm calling the phantom. Those negative recurring thoughts that are constantly processing inside of your mind. Those negative recurring thoughts that are judging what is right now against what could be or could have been. What could be or could have been. That's the phantom. Still from page 116, I'm saying that these phantoms you play in your mind all day long, if not addressed, over and over and over again. Someone rudely calls out your mistake in front of others. Later, you find yourself upset. You think, well, what if this happens again in front of everyone? How will others treat me if I let this slide? I'll never get respect. And all of a sudden, that one person's comment becomes torturous. Even after the event has come and gone, you're still playing it back over and over inside of your own mind. You are now experiencing its phantom. You are now experiencing its phantom. Are you seeing that? Somebody put yes in the chat if that makes sense to you. You're now experiencing its phantom. The situation is done. But you're thinking about how to handle it next time, and so you're replaying it as you remembered it the first time, over and over and over and over again. And that's the trap that Sullivan and Hardy call the gap. You see what I'm saying? So the crazy part is that sometimes I'm still on 116. Sometimes these fantasies can haunt you for years. Drudging up old childhood memories. Welcome to the Phantom Zone. That's the Phantom Zone. And so as I'm reading this, I was like, oh my God, like how long? When things go wrong in the very concept of things going wrong is a concept that's judged against an ideal of how things ought to be. The Taoists had an understanding of this when they talked about expectation. In the Taoist concept of expectation, anytime you can't be disappointed if you're not expecting something to happen. In other words, if you're not originating an ideal, and measuring your now against it, you really don't experience disappointment. This also gets at the tacit assumptions within the Buddhist concept of desire. Buddha says if you have no desire, you have no problems. In other words, if you would let go of the ideal, there would be nothing keeping you from enjoying the right now. That does not mean don't have goals and ideals to strive for. It means don't allow the ideal to strip you of your happiness that is now. I don't know who needs to hear this tonight, but it was important enough for me to jump in this piece and say it just like that, because I can remember Didi saying yes, excellent. And so Kamar saying it's like ego in essence. That's 1%. Excellent. I'm telling you, I can remember being in the gap for real, being haunted by phantoms for real, particularly as it came to my history with the university. I remember trying to get into a PhD program in 2013 after I finished my master's degree. And it was like pulling teeth. I didn't end up getting in. I had to go work for like 2 years or whatever the case is, or struggle for 2 years in Chicago for like 2 years. But during that time, I started putting together like research projects, right, that could be published and that sort of thing, right? And when it was time for me to actually go and apply for a PhD program again, I had all the grades, the perfect 4.0s. I had publications, which is rare for somebody who's going from a master's degree to a doctoral program. Generally speaking, you want your publications to come out after your, you want them anytime, but generally speaking, they tend to come out as you're graduating from the PhD, not from the master's degree. I had letters of recommendation from the people who worked, like the leaders of the faculty, right? The people who were, sort of dual roles of faculty member plus administrators, right? And still had international projects that got published, right? Conducted, projects overseas in Africa, and then came back or a project overseas in Africa, and then came back, published it, the whole thing, right? So I thought I was like real nice with it, right? And at some point, my champion, the faculty member that I told you had was writing the letters of recommendation. He was like, I don't think this is going to work. Yeah, I don't think you're going to get in. They're telling me that there's just better candidates. I was like, you got to be amazing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so you mean everybody's going to be published by the time they get into this PhD program? I mean, the game has just changed. Everybody's done international projects. The game has changed. Everybody's grades are stellar. Everybody has recommendations from the faculty members that work at the institution. Wow. And straight up, I did end up, so I was waitlisted, and I did end up getting into that particular program. And when I got to the university, I was waiting to meet all of these excellent people who had beaten me out somehow. And everybody was just run of the mill. No offense to people who were there, but nobody had public. Let me say, when I say run of the mill, I just mean that they didn't have the same stuff. Some people didn't even have master's degrees. There are people in there who just had like a bachelor's degree, no public, whatever. I was like, man, if this can happen to me at the PhD level, what would happen to me at the faculty level? Faculty just means once you get the PhD and you go get hired at a university, you become a professor. Then what happens? What are the politics like then? And so that started the journey of saying, I think I'm going to have to leave the university, because In this particular case, it happened to work out by getting into the university and then eventually transferring over into the number one university in the space. But it didn't have to work out like that. And when I saw new faculty members coming in based off the color of their skin, whatever the case is, we would hear through the grapevine that certain people weren't invited in because of their ethnic background. And I was like, dude, if this can happen at this level, at the university, the place where everyone says that they understand how to make society better, and it functions just like any other place that I work, then that tells me that there is not a intellectual problem. These people are not stupid. There is a consciousness issue. People aren't living from a particular space. That you're not going to be accepted here. That was me living in the gap. These thoughts, right? I'm thinking these thoughts. This is me being like, oh man, staying in this gap experience, the experience between the ideal that I wanted, which is really just to be a professor, versus the situation I was actually facing, which was the fact that it's going to be very difficult for you to make it through the gatekeepers. Because even if you have one as your champion, which other people didn't necessarily have, you're still going to be at a disadvantage. And I thought that that would be true in every place except for the university. Turns out it was true there. And I'm telling you, that might seem like a small story, but for me, it was like, if this is true at the university, where else is it true? And so I started running from needing to be around anyone else, deciding what my paycheck was going to be. I started running from it. I was like building businesses that I wasn't necessarily passionate about, but just get me away from that. I just don't want to have my livelihood dependent on what somebody else is telling me I can do or achieve. And the problem with that type of thinking is that might get you a freedom from whatever, anxiety, or freedom from the system, or freedom from the university, or the people who don't like you, or whatever the case is. But does it give you a freedom to? The freedom to do what you love, the freedom to do what I cared about most, the freedom to, it took years. I'm saying years before I actually said, okay, now that I'm free from, where do I have my freedom to? Now that I'm free from, what would I even like to do? Like, what would I love? What would I love to do? And it took me years to get to the question of asking, what would I love to do? Because I thought the answer was more money. Go do that which gives you more money so that you can have more time. But I had that. And so it was like, okay, well, you've got your time. And for about 3 years, I was just trying to figure out what it is that I love to do. Because freedom from is fine, but freedom from comes with gap thinking. My ideal is not met. The ideal I'm talking about the basic ideal of being respected for the work that you do, for being able to put points on the board and have those points matter. I'm talking about basics. That ideal was not being met inside of the university. The ideal wasn't being met inside the university. It got so crazy that I was like, what's the value of a PhD? Like, what's the value of any of the research skills? What's the value of anything that we learn? What's the value? So I like threw it out for a couple of years. When I got my first sales job, I went into Indeed And I was so hungry. I was so hungry to learn the skills that would get me out of needing to rely on any institution. I wanted to be able to do what was necessary in-house. I was looking for freedom from, because I was so scarred by that gap experience, by that phantom of constantly hearing, waitlisted is, waitlisted is, oh, you're waitlisted. Wait, I think everybody knows what the wait list is. Like in a university, wait list just means that you're the person who's waiting to get into the university if other people who are classified as, higher and more eligible don't decide to take that position. And so waitlisted is, waitlisted is. Dude, it was 2022 and I was still walking around like, I can't believe they said waitlisted is. It would just be random. Like I would be doing whatever I wanted. I would be doing whatever. And I would turn to Felicity and be like, you believe they said waitlisted is? You believe that? Like I was hot. That's the phantom. That's the phantom. Constantly replaying itself over and over again. And if it's unaddressed, it doesn't just go away. It'll go away temporarily. But if it's unaddressed, it doesn't just go away. In fact, it starts to shape and form your behaviors moving forward. So an example of that is after 2019, I graduate PhD, cool. From the number one institution in the field, that's great. And I definitely decided I wasn't going to go into the university, into the faculty position. So I was like, I need to learn how to sell. So immediately I called up Indeed. One of my buddies was making like 250 grand or something like that from Indeed as a sales rep. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm on. Okay, Dee Dee's saying, so my silly question is, could looking at other people now cause you to unintentionally not appreciate our own right now, causing us to be stuck in the gap? Valente, welcome in. Valente said years. Yolanda, welcome in. Right, I'm in. Okay, excellent. I feel like I should recap. Dee Dee, I'm going to ask you to repeat your question, please. And as you do that, I'm going to recap just for folks who are coming into the room for the first time. Okay. Right now we're talking about a concept called two concepts. We're talking about the gap. The gap from this book, 10x is easier than 2x. I highly recommend. Somebody put this on your Amazon book list. Go ahead and get that today. Highly recommend. I'm about halfway through it right now. Highly recommend. So check this out. The gap is the distance between the ideal that you have about the reality you wish you were living versus the reality you actually are living. And so what happens is that by not appreciating where you are right now and judging it instead off of where you wish you were, there is a gap that's created. There is a space that's created where people live in and stay stuck in. Now I call that the phantom zone. So the title of this broadcast is, are you living in the phantom zone? That's another way of saying, are you living in the gap? The phantom zone from page 116 in Spiritual Responsibility, of course, is all of those negative thoughts, scenarios, situations that you're playing in your head predicated on what could have been or what might be, but isn't. And that's an issue because as you keep replaying those situations that could be or could have been, right? So we're talking about past and future. You're playing situations in your mind that do not exist right now. In other words, you're replaying their phantoms. You're replaying situations that do not exist. Only the ghost of them exist. And the ghosts are legion. And I'm telling you, however spiritually evolved you are, if you are not addressing the phantom zone, if you are not addressing the gap, your behavior will be shaped by it. Your behavior will be shaped by it. I'm about to get to my story in just a second here. Shawn, go, welcome in. Yeah. Oh, by the way, if you are in this piece and you are not saying hello, say hello so I can shout you out, and welcome you into the fold. So Didi, I'm waiting for you to just kind of rephrase that because I'm wondering exactly what you're saying. So going back to this, that gap experience, aka the phantom zone, the place where we're replaying these situations and scenarios over and over and over in our mind, even though the situation has ended, still replaying those over and over in our mind, experiencing their phantom, that begins to shape behavior in subtle ways. Okay, so Didi's saying, would looking at someone else's reality be a cause of you not to appreciate your accomplishments and lacking advancing in your own reality? Yes. Yes. Yeah, that's where we're going. That's right. That's it. Is you're looking at someone else's reality, and we can think about that not just in terms of you comparing yourself to some person on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or wherever people are looking, or YouTube. That's one thing, but then also like at a cultural level, like who sets the standard at a cultural level for what we ought to be? Who decides that? And if it's not you, then that's an issue because that's also judging yourself against a reality that somebody else has set. Don't you know? Remember when B came through and blessed us with her conversation? She reflected a sentiment that I think all of us have felt at some point, which is that, oh, I just don't feel like I'm where I should be. Ooh, let's get to that. I think that's a little later in the night. I think that's a little later in the night. Let me just stay on. Let me get back to this thing, and then we'll handle that. We'll handle the should conversation because Didi, I think it's spot on with what you're saying. Even at a cultural level, though, it's not. So I'm not even saying an individual. I'm saying at a cultural level, who is setting the terms of what somebody your age who is like you should have? And if that is not you, and yet you have it set as your ideal or as the ideal upon which you are judging your current circumstances or situation against, welcome to the phantom zone. Welcome to the phantom zone. And so Shango is saying, sorely missed you guys. Shango, we really missed you too. We wanted you to come through on the master classes because those were a blast. And there's so many things that I want to be able to tell you about the actual summer. But let me just keep going with this right quick. And Valente, I'm liking this profile picture, man. It's Valente, how you been, bro? Talk to me, man, because you look phenomenal. This is high energy that I'm getting through on the internet. So thank you for blessing us with your presence here. And so I want to get back to this. So check this out. I was just saying that the phantom zone can, if unaddressed, begin to shape your behavior, your future actions. If you're in the gap, you're in the phantom zone. That's what that can do. And so for me, coming out, remember the tagline that was going through my mind was waitlist it is. Waitlist it is. And just to give you a sense of what that actually meant to me, it meant waitlist it is meant you can do everything right, excel your peers, and where these folks can just walk in, you got to be on the wait list. Wait list it is. Boom. Wait list it is. That's what it represented to me. You could be better and still not win. Wait list it is. You've proven yourself. Wait list it is. It's one thing if it was subjective. It's another thing when it's like, no, this person's put points on the board. Wait list it is. You see what I'm saying? Like that was the phantom. That was the negative pattern of thought and emotion based on how I was creating meaning around a circumstance that was with me for years. Waitlisted is. They told me that in 2014. I was still talking about that in well after 2020, well after, being fine. Waitlisted is. You ever talk to somebody and you talk them into a subject that like you noticeably see them getting angry with? Like you see them growing upset. That was like my conversation. Oh, bring up graduate school admissions. Oh, please. Right, so this was the idea. Anyway, the point is that the phantom zone begins to shape behavior. Here's how it did for me. 2019, I leave the university, graduate, cool. Immediately go into a organization, one that's called Indeed. Indeed is a company that does like a job software company. They match people with jobs and that sort of thing. I don't know if their headquarters is here in Austin, but they got some pretty large buildings here in Austin. So I think it's something. They got something here. So that was the first place that I went because my bro was making like 250 bands over there before he left and started his business. And I was like, okay, cool. That's a template. I'll just go learn the skills of selling and then go start the business. I don't know what the business is, but I'll go start that joint after I learn these skills. Right. So to me, I was like, okay, this is perfect. Let me just go ahead and go into Indeed. So I go up in Indeed. I get the invite to come through, and I go through. I go into the interview with a PhD. I go into the interview and have my PhD on. There we go. All right. I go into the interview and have my PhD on the resume, right? So people would understand what I had been doing for the last 10 years. While in the PhD program, I was also helping some people like sell products and that sort of thing. So I was getting my feet wet while I was still like writing a dissertation with the sales game and all of that and how to talk with people in a way that wasn't academic, right? In a way that was quick to the point. And I needed to be able to do that in a sales environment, in an academic environment. I need to be able to be. It helps to be to the point, but most people are just verbose because there's so much to unpack. Yes, so training those different types of communication patterns was, important for me. So I started basically doing that for free for people while I was straight up doing a dissertation. So research in the morning and then, I'm hitting the phones at night, right? This was the idea. So by the time I graduate, I'm going to Indeed and I've got a bit of experience. I've raised some money, and these people are looking at me like the woman who, she must have been like a secretary. She brings me into the office for the interview, and the sales directors are not yet in the room. And she just kind of sits me down and says, okay, well, tell me who you are. And I was like, okay, what would you like to know? She was like, well, anything. And I was like, oh man, she's giving me waitlisted is energy. What is waitlisted is energy? That's the energy of, it doesn't matter what you've done. Don't you know where you are? Waitlisted is. Right? It was like that. So she's giving me this kind of energy and that's starting the day. I was like, oh boy, this is a problem. And naturally, that sort of thinking, that phantom coming up at that moment, shaped the rest of that interview session. It got so bad in that interview. I ended up talking to 3 sales managers that day. It got so bad that people were just asking me questions like just to like get out of, just to hurry up and say, to look like they were busy to whoever their supervisors might have been. But you could tell behind their eyes they were not. They were already like, nah, he might not even make the wait list. He might not even make the wait list. And so, if you're a person who is like myself, who don't really like taking no, my personality, my ego does not like taking no's. I don't like that. And so I wanted to show these people that I could be persistent, that I could be the salesperson that they were looking for. So don't you know, after we leave the interview, 3 days go by, I send an email. Nobody, I hear no response. 4 days go by, I send an email. No response. So on the fifth day, I start just calling. And I was like, oh, let me overdo this. Let me overdo it so that they can understand that, I've got the kind of tenacity and grit that they're looking for. That surely this will work. I called these people 42 times a piece. 42 times a piece until the inboxes got filled up so that they couldn't be like, oh, we didn't get your call. It's like, no, you got the call, because I heard the inbox say that it couldn't accept any more voice messages. You see what I'm saying? Like, and so they saw that as being crazy, and admittedly, that is not the way to do things, right? That is not the way to do things. But I'm telling you, I was so hungry, not for a job, but for the ability to do what my bro did. He got freedom. There was no one telling him waitlisted is anymore. Right? There was no one telling him that he could just, go to put up all the points on the board, do the international projects, get the accolades, get the rewards, and still be waitlisted. There was no one telling him that. Not anymore. So I wanted that. And I was like, okay, I got to do whatever it takes. As you might expect, and as probably, it was the natural response. Eventually I get a call from Indeed, and they were like, yeah, you came in for an interview, right? And I was like, yeah. They were like, yeah, so we need you to never call here again. Can you do that? We need you to never call here again. Don't get in touch with the hiring managers. Please don't even send an email. Send it to me and I'll send it to them. I was like, oh man. Okay. Might have went too far. You dig what I'm saying? But such is the psychosis of being in the gap, of being in the phantom zone, of being so motivated by this negative thought pattern that in that case, it drove me to be over ambitious. In another case, it can lead you to hurting somebody. It just depends on the nature of the phantom. It just depends on the nature of the phantom. So eventually, this gets back to that idea of the PhD being too much of a, I started devaluing it because I'm in the gap, right? So I'm not thinking research skills matter. I'm not thinking the ability to learn and you distill down complex data. I'm not thinking that any of that stuff matters anymore. Because what good was it doing for me? You dig what I'm saying? What good was it? So the next time I went to go get a sales job, I took the PhD completely off, took both master's degrees completely off, and was just bachelor's degree. And said, hey, I'm ready to work. And that job turned into one of the best experiences. Ironically, because people, without the PhD being there, no one was threatened by it. It wasn't an issue. I was just there was the top dudes on the floor in terms of sales, in terms of the people who were closing the most deals. I think I ended up breaking records at that company, right? So, but the top dudes, the dude who had the record before me, he was a dude from prison. His name was Matt. And it was Buddy from prison and the undercover PhD just banging on the sales. And that ended up being an example of being in a world where you've done all of the things. You've earned the right to be called whatever the case, doctor or whatever. You have your accolades. You did the stuff. You did it's documented. You did it. And the only way which is what I learned in that situation, to actually move forward in a world that you are not self-determining, is to take off, try and hide somehow who you are. So you can't even offer the level of expertise that you may have otherwise been able to offer had people actually known and recognized, cared about any of your prior history. those folks were just happy I was closing deals. They knew, somebody found out eventually that I was getting, people 8 months in or 6 months in would be like, hey, do you have a PhD? So like people ended up finding out, but by that point, my identity in that environment is sales executive. It is not the dude with the it is just not a thing. But the fact that it's something that I had to take off in order to move forward suggests the nature of the phantoms I was dealing with. And those phantoms were the fear of not being enough. The fear of not being enough. That's the phantom that is created in the gap. That's the phantom that's created between the ideal situation and where I saw myself. Either way, this gap, because there's a gap, it means that I don't have the ideal, which suggests not being enough. Otherwise, you'd have the ideal. And so that is a part of that gap experience. That is a part of being in the phantom zone. That is being in the phantom zone. That is being in the phantom zone. And so I hope that story is not, it is more elucidating. It's helping to shed light on what the phantom zone actually is and what the gap actually is. And in a moment, we're about to get to the solution to that phantom zone and to the solution to being in the gap. That's both stated in Spiritual Responsibility and in 10x easier than 2x. But before we do, somebody put yes in the chat if you're still understanding what I'm saying. Put yes in the chat if you understand what I'm saying. I hope I didn't miss anybody with these stories here. Django saying yes. Kabias is saying, Kabias, welcome in. Okay, I saw Twin, but I did not see you. Welcome in, Kabias. Okay, so Shango's saying yes. Kabias is saying yes. DD's saying yes. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Again, that gap experience, that phantom zone can test your nerves so much that it drives you to do things that you otherwise wouldn't. It can drive you to do things that you otherwise wouldn't. Kamar's saying yes. Excellent, excellent. And so we want to be able to understand the anatomy of the phantom zone, the anatomy of the gap. Why does it? Why is the gap a trap? Why is the gap a trap? The reason is because the gap gets you stuck in the tyranny of shoulds. The tyranny of shoulds. Yes, I should do this. No, I shouldn't do that. This should be like this. That should be like that. You see what I'm saying? The tyranny of shoulds. Don't you know most people live their lives in should? And what they need to do, not in what they want to do. The should is the should is the issue, and shoulds always happen. Do you notice that you're always saying, oh, I should do that, when you're actually not taking responsibility? Because if you're taking spiritual responsibility, then the idea of a should, something that you need to do but don't really want to do, because if you wanted to do it and you knew you needed to do it, you would do it. But I'm talking about the things you need to do. It's a should, but not necessarily a loving expression of yourself. It's a should. I should lose weight. I should stop eating out. I should start a business. I should pay down the mortgage. I should, whatever the should is. I should offer this particular product because it's more lucrative, even though I don't really want to fulfill it. I don't really want to go through the work of creating it and putting it out. But I should. That's the tyranny of shoulds. The difference, the should comes about because of the ideal that we're looking to express, that we're looking to attain. The distance between that ideal and where we are now. That's where the should pops out. You experience the should in the gap. You experience the should in the phantom zone. That's that distance. And so the should keeps replaying over and over in the mind too. This is so subtle. It's like in order to know what's a real loving expression and what's a should, you have to get back in touch with that heart center. There is no other way. Because the intellect is going to tell you all of the shoulds. It's going to say, "Oh, if you did this, if you did this, and this, you would get this result." Now, you might be miserable the entire time, but you would get this final result here. You should therefore do this, and this, because the final result, I mean. But the problem is that final result, there's many ways to it. And there's no guarantee that if you do this, and this, or that you'll even be successful in doing this, and this. And so there's no guarantee that if you're simply doing things as a means to an end, that the end is going to be anyway what you want. The end is, you don't know if the end is going to be exactly what you want. You didn't go to it and arrive at it in a way that was commiserate with the love that was within you. So it's how people achieve everything and lose their soul, so to speak, lose that which is most important to them. I heard a famous celebrity today talking about how at the peak of her career and her life, had the family, had the husband, had the whole, the cars, the house, super wealthy, famous, you get it. And this person was contemplating suicide and was trying to dress it up like it was an accident, was trying to figure out ways to dress it up as if it were an accident. That's being in the phantom zone, you understand? That's being in that gap experience, telling yourself constantly that things should look a different way than they do. That's the phantom zone. That's the tyranny of shoulds. When people told her, you should be, she said she would go to her friends and say, I'm unhappy right now. And they would say, for what? You got everything. You should be happy, which is another way of saying you should be quiet. And so inwardly she went. Inwardly she went. Abiding by other people's tyranny of shoulds. Because intellectually it's unassailable. She's like, well, I do kind of have everything, so. But except that one thing, you dig what I'm saying? Which is that peace of mind. So what's the way out of the gap? What's the way out of the trap? The cure is in the Idon mind. The cure is in the Idon mind. What are the three practical ways? The Idon mind, of course, is getting into that state of being where we can say, I don't mind to what happens, and we mean it. Not in the sense that we're giving up, we're quitting on ourselves or quitting on someone else, but literally, we've put our problems into such a perspective that we realize that the God that is in us is bigger than whatever issue we face outside of us. This is the point. This is the point. So we get into that Idon mind. There's three primary ways that I wanted to come to you today to suggest handling these gap experiences, handling the experience of being in the phantom zone, handling the tyranny of shoulds. First step, self-forgiveness. Being able to forgive yourself for even being there in the first place, for even having an issue in the first place. But the next two are gratitude and love. Gratitude and love. You cannot be in the gap if you are thinking about the gain. This is coming from Sullivan and Hardy. Again, 10x is easier than 2x. 10x is easier than 2x. You cannot be in the gap if you are in the gain. What's the gain? The gain is being able to look back over your experience, the last 3 months, the last 10 months, the last 12 months, and say, what has worked for me? What has been perfect for me? How has everything been working for my highest good? What have I learned? That's the gain. Every situation has the gain to it. I don't think I need to spend too much time telling you all this. You understand that every situation has a gain to it. But just that shift from these things are happening to me to these things are happening for me, that makes a huge difference. That makes a huge difference. I'm not thinking about a wait list. I'm thinking about the fact that what were the chances that I would get into the number 18 school but end up graduating from the number 1? What were the chances? What were the chances that it would be in an startup culture like Austin, where being able to meet incredibly influential and successful folks is it's fairly easy, and to have them work with you, fairly easy. Oh, okay, well that's interesting. What would be the chances? Okay, so at this point I can start recognizing the benefit of that journey. I can recognize that whereas I thought I was being waitlisted, had I not got into that program at that particular point in time, I wouldn't have been able to transfer. What ended up happening was that one champion that I told you about who didn't seem that powerful, he ended up getting a faculty position at another university, University of Texas at Austin. And so he was basically like, hey, I got this grad student. Can he come? And I had just bought a house in Athens, right here. No, this is in Athens, Ohio. I went to Ohio University. I had just bought a house. And he was like, yeah, can my grad student, can he come with us? Can I just bring him? And they were like, oh, sure, just bring him. And now the leapfrog from the number 18 program to the number 1, which had I stayed in the university, that would have mattered. That was only possible because I had gotten in at the exact time that I needed to for that transition to take place. And so the legends of the field are on my dissertation committee, right? Like, I mean, it's kind of laughable, but the point is that, I mean, when I say laughable, I mean like it's I couldn't have seen that coming. And so stuck in the gap though, I'm not thinking about any of that. However, recognizing the gain, I can. And so I add just one more layer to that, and that's gratitude. Like, you've got this gain. Now, can you feel grateful for it? Can you send love to every person who was helpful along the way, and even those who were not? Every person who stalled you out, the process of not getting in the first iteration and having to go and work in Chicago for 2 years, can you send love to that situation and to yourself in that situation and then be grateful for it? Because obviously without that, you wouldn't have done that other thing. You wouldn't have done the thing. So the gap is fillable with the gain. The phantom zone is healable with gratitude. The phantom zone is healable with love. The tyranny of shoulds is healable with spiritual responsibility, which is coterminous with love. And so from my own private journal, every day I get into meditation, and then afterwards, occasionally, but often enough, I'll just get to writing. I'll just start writing in a journal straight up. And so on October 11th, I wrote that spiritual responsibility is another way of saying love. We're going to get to the concept about the tyranny of shoulds in this. Oftentimes I'm writing a message to my personality, to my ego, so that when I can return, if I ever find myself in an ego storm, in a place where I'm in the phantom zone and I'm not in my higher self, I can return to the page and be brought back to center. Highly recommend having a journal. You can start with just a gratitude journal, but having something where you're just writing down the downloads that spirit gets you, particularly if you're using your kits. You're writing these down, because what I'm putting down is that spiritual responsibility is another way of saying love. Your life's work can only be accomplished when you follow love. That's very different than following should. It's very different than following should. And you can't follow what you love if you're constantly living by should or have to. Should and have to are ways of avoiding responsibility. Stuck in should and have to means you're allowing circumstances, perceived needs, other people's situations to direct what your options are. Because you notice that should is never based on, this is what I love to do. A should is never love. A should, like if it's a should, that means there's a slight resistance because it's not done. If there's a should, that means there's some type of barrier that's standing in the way. And so we want to get to understand what that barrier is. And stuck in should and have to means you're allowing circumstances, perceived needs, and external situations to dictate what you do. Spiritual responsibility means deciding to do what is intrinsically motivating. To follow love for that is the only direction that is true and unique to you. It's untouched by it. Love is untouched by the agendas of others. No one can love for you, which means no one can do what you love for you. If you don't do it, it don't get done. And so getting stuck in the tyranny of shoulds is only postponing your life's purpose, your life's work. You dig what I'm saying? So indeed, following love over and against what the world, family, or anyone else thinks is the definition of deciding to have true freedom right now. It's the definition of it. Because if I'm not in the tyranny of shoulds, that means I'm actually doing what I love. And love is like the highest form of freedom. If I had any choice in the world, I would do what I love. Period. And so if I get stuck in a should and I allow a should to derail me from what I enjoy doing, what I love doing, or who I love being, or who I love being with, that should is in the way. But it would be if I were stuck in the gap, if I were in the phantom zone, you understand? However, love charts a very clear course away and out of the gap. Away and out of the gap. So check it out. when you are in love, you are taking spiritual responsibility for your reality. There's no ability to be in the gap and in love at the same time. One will yield to the other. And so just having that experience of getting back into the iodine mind, yes, by sending love to the negative thought patterns or just the negative thoughts constantly circling in your own mind. This is powerful. Sending gratitude to exactly where you are right now and all the treasures that you currently have right now. This is powerful. Forgiving yourself. For believing at some point that you should have been more, should have been doing more. This is also powerful. And so what I'm saying is that these three, self-forgiveness, gratitude, love, these are three practical ways of getting back into the iodine mind and freeing yourself from the gap. And remember, just going back to that story, getting into the sales job and leaving the university, all of those activities were attempts to help me get free from something, get free from dependence on somebody else for a paycheck, right? That was a freedom from. But it wasn't until I discovered the power of asking myself, what is it that I love? What is actually coming from my heart space? What's actually coming from my higher self that I should be doing? That I got to experience the freedom to do what I enjoy doing. The freedom to do what I feel I was put on earth to do. The freedom to, you see what I'm saying? The freedom to create what I love. That freedom to is totally different than living a life where you're just trying to get free from. Free from is cool, but freedom to is where love takes you. And so in my journal today, I wrote, rotating between love and gratitude, I am perfected. Rotating between love and gratitude, I am perfected. Which meant that anytime I had a negative thought, I would literally, from the heart region, send love to that thought and then make an immediate attempt to ground myself in gratitude for what is right now. Just these two all day, love and gratitude, floating between these two. There's a balance there. These two, love and gratitude, easy ways to get back into the iodine mind. Easy ways to get back into the iodine mind. And so, if that is making sense, definitely somebody let me know. Oh, D is in the building. D saying, I'm here for show, Shawn. He says, example. So D, where did you come in at? Where did you come in at? And Didi saying, wow, you could be better and still not win. Yeah, that's what that's the gap, right? That's the phantom zone energy. That's the phantom zone energy. But you don't want to stay there. You don't want to stay in that phantom zone energy. More you want to let go of that. More you want to, and by letting go, I mean getting into love, which often means letting go first. But more you want to, if I could go back and say something to myself, and of course there's no need for that because I know I can send love to myself through time. You understand? Like, it's appropriate to see how that situation was happening for me. Remember, higher reprogramming questions. These are questions that we ask in order to reprogram our negative beliefs about a situation and reprogram them such that they are congruent with higher consciousness. And one of the best ways, my favorite questions is, how is this situation working for me? What gifts is it showing me that I already have? What gifts is it showing me that I can develop still? What is it giving me? Taking that question seriously and actually answering it, oh my gosh. There's so much to be grateful for. And remember, folks, remember that whatever you feel and focus on, you get. Whatever you feel and focus on, you get. You want a life where you are experiencing tremendous levels of gratitude and love all the time. That feeling begets more of that feeling. That's the issue with being in the phantom zone, is that if you're in the phantom zone in one area in your life, it's easy to be in that phantom zone in other areas and in perpetuity, despite whatever you may have achieved. That's how you get the woman saying that she's ready to make her suicide look like an accident, because she's constantly dealing with these phantoms in her own mind, though she has all of the success that most 99.9% of human beings just don't have. Right? She's already famous. Woman's already famous. So what I'm saying to you is, it doesn't matter what your success is. The business won't be enough. The money won't be enough. The fame won't be enough. None of it is enough. Why? Because those things are measured against an ideal. And the more that you achieve, the more there is still to achieve. And so the ideal keeps moving further and further and further out, or rather, from your perspective, further and further and further and further out. You can never approach it. Not for real. And so all you're left with is the gap. I'm saying fill the gap with gratitude and love, and the phantoms disappear. But this has to be an actual working, lived experience. It's not just something I would say you're doing just once during the day, but I mean, it is a constant, not in the sense of being overwhelming, but I'm saying it is a way of living from the heart space. You see what I'm saying? It's a way of living from the heart itself. Okay, so D is saying, I'm here for social. So, example. Okay, right on. So D is saying, okay, can I get an example of transferring the negative thought and sending love to it? Ooh, yes, you can. Yes, you can. In fact, there's two. We're going to do one right now. We're going to do one right now, especially before we get up out of here. It's already been an hour. This was a spur of the moment. Like, I don't really even have, this was not like a formal presentation, but now that D's saying that, yes, indeed, yes, we can. We're going to do one right now, but I'm getting it from the video called Love Even That. So this conscious transformation technology that we're about to do is called Send It Love. Now, in the video, I was walking through, and we'll get back. We'll start the deep dives. I think, I'm thinking about bringing those back sooner rather than later, especially as I write new content and do new stuff for the, for the shorter 5-minute joints. The deep dives are cool because they give us a chance to constantly, be with one another on a weekly basis. So I'm thinking about bringing those back. But when we get to that portion, I'll break down more of that particular exercise and the context for it. But right now, what we need to do is jump into an exercise where you can experience it firsthand, where you can actually take home a tool, something that you can be utilizing throughout your day to deal with negative thought experiences, negative emotional experiences, negative habitual patterns. Somebody cuts you off in traffic, and that knee-jerk reaction to be like, oh, start honking and doing all this, carrying on. How do we handle that in the moment that it's happening? This has always been, my wish for the meditation community, is that we would develop tools that allow us to experience the peace of meditation in the moment that the problem is happening, right? If I gotta wait to get home in order to meditate, in order to get my day cleared and smoothed out, man, that means that I'm carrying some anguish and anxiety all day until I can meditate. And then once you do sit down and meditate, all those thoughts are going through your mind, and you're dealing with the thoughts as if you were still in the situation. And so the thoughts beget more thoughts, and then before you know it, it's 20 minutes into the meditation and you're still not settled. You still got the face on, trying to get there. So the point of conscious transformation technologies is that we are deploying tools, spiritual techniques, spiritual technologies that allow us to handle issues as they arise. I don't want to wait until I get home to meditate. Oh, we can meditate when we get home, but I got to handle this right now. That's the benefit of having these technologies and actually training in them, mastering them. And so just one of those technologies is a technology I call Send It Love. And truly, just a small context, and then we'll jump into the exercise. And so D saying, he says, so you'll never be satisfied. I get it. Even if you win the race, you'll be looking for what's next. Exactly. Me too. I just left boxing practice. Big spur of the moment. Yeah, I mean, exactly. But the technique that I'm about to show you is perfect for the martial art. Because sometimes when you're boxing or you're fighting somebody, and I think I told these stories before, your ego can take over and there can be aggression and too much aggression. And so the flip side of that is that there can be fear. Someone starts getting the better advantage of you. You could want to quit before it's actually time for you to stop, right? You could break mentally before it's time, before your body gives out. That's an issue, right? Warriors cannot break before their bodies give out. You dig what I'm saying? Let the body give out first, which means that we have to be able to handle our minds. And I'm telling you that love is the warrior's best tool. Not because you're looking to manipulate others with it, but because it's simply unbeatable. It's simply unbeatable. As you know, I train a lot of submission grappling, submission fighting. I was just there today too. And there could be situations where, I think I told this story before, where you're grappling with somebody and they get the better of you and they're 100 pounds bigger than you and they're sitting on your chest and they're cutting off the air, and oh yeah, you're tired, and oh yeah, he wants to get your arm, and oh yeah, the coach is looking, and oh yeah, your belt promotion might be on the line. You dig what I'm saying? And you're just like, oh man. And then somebody inevitably has a phone out and they're recording it. You dig what I'm saying? And so with that kind of all those little dings and little nicks to your ego is really getting agitated. And I found myself with my ego really getting agitated in those situations. And so too much of that means that you'll want to quit before, or basically tap out, right? Before you even need to. So the way I handle that is with the same exercise that we're about to do right now. And this exercise allows for you to harness the power of love in order to calm the mind. I need you to understand the depth of what we are saying. I said, harness the power of love in order to calm your mind. Therefore, in order to control and take ownership over your mind. That's what I'm saying. How is this possible? Because wherever you have love, you can't also have fear. So you're cutting out the fear immediately. Remember that drug-induced situation I was telling you about where I was like, oh, love is the unassailable weapon. This is a part of what I saw, but it's a part of what you're about to see, particularly as you use this in situations that otherwise would have given you anxiety, otherwise would have made you anxious, otherwise would have made you fearful. You see what I'm saying? So, and D, you'll be able to use it. I don't know if you're the best boxer at the gym or the worst, but should you encounter either of those, you'll be able to meet even these combat scenarios. Yes, we're talking about sport, but even a combat scenario with love. And that should not be sounding cheesy. That should not be sounding like, oh man, what's this dude on? It should be sounding like, oh, you mean there is a way to take control of my mind, and it has to do with God? And you're saying that God also is love? Now that's fascinating. Now that's fascinating. That's what I want to know about. That's what I want to know about. Because sending love in the way that I'm about to show you does not diminish the other person. This is not something that is going to harm somebody else. In fact, it will help them, even if you are in a combat situation. Because now you're not fighting out of anger. You're not fighting out of hatred. You can do what's necessary and nothing more. Because in the end, you see that you're only really sparring with yourself. Even in an actual war zone. What I'm saying is, the very definition of love is the breakdown of the sense of separation between you and me, and that is the breakdown. When you're in love with somebody, that means you no longer feel a barrier between who they are at their essence and who you are at your essence. It is shared. It is one. It is unity. It is the cessation of the borders. There's no more borders between us. It's open. Now, in a relationship, that doesn't mean that you don't set boundaries. But the point is that it means that the love doesn't know a boundary. It's oneness. And so when we return back to that oneness, there's no more enemy within, which means there's no more enemy without, which means there is nothing to fear, which means my mind can rest in calmness, serenity. Somebody put yes in the chat before I continue on. I need you to put yes, I understand in the chat before I continue on. We got to have this down. Tobias is saying yes. Excellent. Kamar saying yes. 100. I understand. Excellent. Yes, Christy saying, fill the gap with gratitude and love and the phantoms will disappear. Need a constant reminder of this quote. Dude, like, I'm learning that we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. That comes from Alex Hormozy's book. That was, y'all can tell I read a lot, but like, we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. And hopefully that's what the channel is providing, is those opportunities just to be reminded. Just to be reminded. But tell me, yes, I understand before we continue on, because I need to know. Felicity, are you in here? Shawn goes saying powerful. Yolanda's saying, yes, I understand. D is saying, yes, D. I don't want to actually read that out loud, but yeah, with the power of love on God. Yes. Yeah, D is such a pure soul with a creative way of expressing himself through language. This is exactly what I'm saying. You can still engage in the dance that is combat and still not belittle, not overextend, not overdo it, And if you happen to be the person that's on the punishing end, you can keep a calm mind while you execute the techniques that allow you to change the situation for your improvement, for your betterment, to do what you need to do. Absolutely. Okay, so Shango saying yeah. D saying yes, yes. Felicity saying yes. Welcome in, Felicity. Welcome in. Y'all know Felicity's my queen. She's in here. She's saying yes. D saying yes. I understand. Excellent, excellent. So let's jump into this. Whatever you're doing, like we're about to just so we're going into a meditation for a moment, and what I want to do in this exercise is get us into a heart space. And what we're going to do is utilize the energy from that heart space in order to deal with, handle, take care of the nervous system, take care of our minds, so that when we reemerge, we're able to do so with a clarity and an understanding that we simply had forgotten about before. So, do we need a bathroom break? Does anybody need a bathroom break? Do I need a bathroom break? Does anybody need a bathroom break? We about to, we can do that right quick and then come on back. Kabai saying, "Miss this game changer energy." Thank you, Dr. Shawn. Man, Kabias, man, I've been thinking a lot about you guys. As a matter of fact, I'm wondering if I should say this now or after the exercise. Now or after the exercise. All right, let's get to the exercise, and then afterwards we'll come back through. Does anybody need a few minutes, or y'all ready to go? Put ready in the chat if you're ready, because I don't want anybody getting up once once we start this, because you're gonna get the best, you're gonna get the most benefit out of it by doing it together and sort of being in a vibe with all of us in the space. Okay, so just put ready if you're ready. If you say you need 2 minutes and you take the 2, we'll take 2. Put ready in the chat if you're ready. Get some water right quick. Kamar saying ready. Excellent. I'm ready to start breathing this prana. Sound like our good brother Ralph Smart. Beautiful. Reminded is something we all need, Shango. That's exactly right. Shango, are you working, Brad? Okay. Shango is ready. All right, cool. So Dee Dee's saying ready. Excellent. Yolanda, I'm gonna have to assume that you in, champ. So here we go. Folks, anytime we do these exercises, feet both planted on the floor, or take your favorite lotus position. We're keeping our spine erect. Not overly so. Don't overdo it. But just imagine a string coming from the ceiling and attached to the back of your head. Right there. Imagine that string is just holding you up to the spine. Your shoulders relax. It already feels good. Just to sit and be. Before we begin, just take a deep breath. Inhale in and feel the air fill up your belly button. Literally visualize, see the air, feel the air as you inhale. Fill up the bottom of your belly, expanding your belly button out. And your belly expands in every direction. And you're exhaling very slowly. One more cycle. Inhale, filling your belly in all 4 directions with air. And exhaling slowly. At this moment, I want you to ask yourself a simple question. Am I aware? See that the answer is yes. You are aware of seeing the dark behind your eyes, even when you have closed your eyes. You are aware of the body, the tingling sensation at the soles of the feet. You are aware of sound, recognizing the hum of the refrigerator, the sound of traffic, the TV on in the other room, the sound of my voice. Notice that awareness does not blink. Because awareness is always aware. Before time was, and after time is. Awareness is aware. And you are that. How would it feel as the awareness that exists before time and after time? The awareness that is aware of all things, openly accepts all things, rejects nothing. How does it feel when you, as awareness, think of love? Right now, place your attention in the center of your chest and simply think of love. Can you feel love originating in the center of your chest by simply thinking of love? Simply think of the feeling of love now. Let its energy burst forth inside of your heart. You do know love, and you have always known love. Simply think of the feeling of love. Feel it as an energy, a ball of light in the center of your chest. Very good. Bask in this love energy. Get used to it. It has always been there. Because it's always been here. Should your mind wander, it's no worries. Simply bring your attention back to the feeling of love as a ball of light energy in your chest. Notice how good it feels. Notice how good it feels. When you are ready, I want you to imagine yourself from earlier today. See yourself walking around, concerned with tomorrow, stuck in the gap. You are not judging yourself. You are simply seeing yourself, thinking of yourself from earlier today, while holding your attention on that love ball of light and energy in the center of your chest. whatever you may have felt on your journey through the day, whatever your human form may have felt or thought on your journey through the day, send a piece of that love light from the center of your chest to the thought of yourself, your human self, from earlier today. Watch love enter from the top of your head watch love move from your chest to your past self from earlier today. Watch love move from your chest and your heart to the heart of your past self from earlier today. Simply send it love. Notice that you have so much more love to give, and yet what you have sent is enough. If there are doubts coming into your mind right now, send love from your chest to those doubtful thoughts right now. Feel that love, light, energy move from your chest into your head. Feel that love light move from your chest into the doubtful thought itself. And watch the doubtful thought become love, consumed by the love light energy. Until the doubtful thought is love itself. With this same energy, with this same love light, you can think of anyone who may have doubted you, who may have caused injury, who may have hurt you. And rather than send love to them, Send love to the thought you have about them. Notice the negative memory. The person who hurt you. The situation that didn't go as you planned. See it in your mind now. Your love light in your chest is growing powerful now. Send love to the negative thought in your mind now. Watch love, the light of love, move from your heart to your head. Watch the light of your love enter into the negative memory. And turn the negative memory into love light. 2. Notice how love, the light of your love, turns everything it interacts with into itself. Notice the lightness that comes when your negative thoughts have been sent love, and having received love, turn into love. In this moment, send love to everything in your awareness. Send love to the tension in your back, to the sounds in your environment, to the sensation of clothing hanging on your shoulders, to every thought, including all of your questions. Send love to even that. Every thought about the future, every thought about the past. Send love to even that. Watch the ball of love light in your chest expand so that it covers every thought, every feeling, every sound, every experience in your awareness. See your ball of love light expand to even that. Until your entire reality is made of nothing but love. You are blessed. You are loved. Because you are loved. Say thank you for this wonderful moment of recognizing that you are love. And all of your reality is love. Say thank you for how good it feels. When you are ready, return to awareness, to the question, am I aware? Notice that now your awareness and love are one. Take one deep breath in, filling your belly, and exhale it out. You may open your eyes. Let me know if you were able to do and feel that experience. Somebody put, yes, I felt that in the chat. Tobias is saying, oh, yes, I felt that. Come on, somebody. Excellent. Excellent. Felicity's saying yes, but Felicity, I said, yes, I felt that. Okay. I need to make sure you're not a robot, Felicity. A bot. Shango is saying, I'm trying. That's very good. That's very good. Because I think with something like this exercise is actually advanced, and because it requires that you be able to connect with that heart center. And so if that is an issue, then what we would want to do is handle that heart center. We would want to get you back in touch with that. Because okay, Felicity's got a smiley face. Yes, I felt that. Thank you. But what we would want to do is get you back in touch with that heart center, because that is where your true self is. The heart will let you know. Notice I am not saying emotions. Love is far more than an emotion. I'm not talking about emotions. I'm not talking about getting in your feelings. I'm talking about getting into feeling, which is to say, getting into awareness. When it comes to that, was a prolonged exercise for people who are just kind of doing it for the first time with us. But in actual practice, it only takes a second to send love to your thought about a situation. Notice I said that. It's not, I'm going to try and love this person. No, 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 no. That's difficult because there's so much resistance. If it was, that's hard to try and love somebody who's done you wrong. So instead of doing that, we send love to the thought we have about the wrongdoing. We send love to the thought we have about the person. If we can do that, oh, well, one, we recognize that we're the ones that are, we're the only one with the issue. And so that's because of that, we're the one who needs to fix it. It's not the other person, it's us. So we send it love in order to see situations more clearly. In order to send and see situations more clearly, we send it love. And so, Shango, that's, perfectly normal um, for that kind of, you know, experience to take place. Our deal is that now, having known that, okay, great. Now we know where to start with you and to begin to, we basically would take a path where we can work into getting into that experience and into those sorts of energetic dimensions, because and we certainly would want to, because there's so much there. There's so much there. Shango, for you, the trick might be simply thinking about the love that you have for your children, right? And then getting into a place where you say, okay, where do I feel that when I feel that? Like, where do I feel that when I feel that? And generally speaking, it's not going to be in your hands, right? Generally speaking, it'll be in the heart center, right? So then we will use that in our meditation. We will use that in our kit, right? So that would be how we would want to do it for someone who's brand new to this. Excellent. Didi saying yes, I did. Kumar saying yes, I felt that for sure. Excellent. Yes. So this concept, descended love, it's difficult to be in the gap dealing with phantoms if you can send love to whatever it is that you're experiencing. Right. Notice at the end we were sending love everywhere. We expanded love so much that it covered our entire experience of reality. quite literally, love becomes our reality. And so that capacity to do just that very exercise and to get good at it, you can come back and work through that exercise again and use that exercise again if you're brand new. But that ability to simply send love to our thoughts and emotions, including the thoughts and emotions, Shango, that say, oh, I'm just not getting this, including those, sending love even to those thoughts. You recognize that there is a peace here and you created it. You see that? You recognize that there is a peace here and that you created it. The only difference now is the speed at which you can do it. This can be done in under a second. It can be done in under a second. All you're doing is sending love to the thought. So the more that you get in touch with your capacity to feel that love energy and then actually send it to a thought, watching that thought become the love light itself, it happens instantaneous. So yeah, even if you're in a pinch, you can still neutralize negativity. If you are in the gap, which is the trap, which is the phantom zone, you can pull yourself out of it by returning to that which is unassailable, unbeatable, unassailable, unbeatable. And so this is the concept here, and this is the power of just one conscious transformation technology, just one kit, which is called Send It Love. I'm hoping that this is something that you were able to get value out of, and that it's something that you're going to be able to use. Of course, ultimately, I would want you to be training in this. It's not something that you just do one time and then leave it. It's something that you're training in, kind of like riding a bicycle or anything else, right? These are skills. We're talking about skills that you're developing that allow you to deal with the mind, allow you to control the mind. And the benefit is that this kind of exercise, this kind of love, you get to take everywhere you go. And I'm saying, even when you go. In other words, even after the passing of your body, these skills are still relevant. Like, the capacity to love does not disappear with the body, because it is not an emotion. It's not something that just is organized by the brain. This is something far deeper than that. And so these skills, literally, they don't last a lifetime, they last lifetimes. And so, yeah, I want you to be training in these. I want you to be practicing these. That's the whole point of conscious transformation technologies and kit mastery training, all the things that I have to actually tell you about. But suffice it to say that these are the skills that matter the most. And so Kamar saying kits, pronounced kits for those that are new, powerful techniques. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And now there's the full, the entire system has been organized, right? That's what I spent the entire summer doing, is getting this entire system of training so that by the end of you having gone through it, you're a different person. Or rather, I should say, you're more of yourself. And so I'm going to talk more about that at a later date, I think, and well, I certainly know. And so for tonight, one of the things that actually, well, I don't think I'm necessarily ready to announce that. No, but for the folks who are in this room right now, be on the lookout, especially if you were in the master classes. If you're in the master classes and you're on the email list, be on the lookout for a special email because I want to invite many of you to this course, and I want it to be something that is, you're since you'll be the first ones to it. I've got like I want it to be something incredible for you, and because it's simply the thing that I've been working on for years, and now it's finally together. And so I'll explain more of what that looks like and all of that at another time. I think we'll do another live next week, and absolutely, I certainly want you to experience this, especially if you've already come to the mastery to the master class, because you've gotten a taste of what it can be. And so now I want to show you the full thing. I want to show you the full set of exercises. And they start out at 8 minutes a day, but this is going to be something that is right now the value set at like $36,000, right? But like I want to give it to the first 5 people in the masterclass for free. And by free, I mean you'll probably make a donation to a charity of your choice, just because I want it to be an investment, and I also want it to be, something that is going to bless other people, even as you come in and we grow together. So, but it'll be something like this. I'm still trying to put together how I want to move for the first 5 people, because this is something that is allowing people to say goodbye to depression, say goodbye to, lack of motivation, to not knowing where to go in life, to, I mean, a lot overthinking, anxiety, right? This is about being able to handle our minds without drugs, right? I'm not against the plant-based, ayahuasca or any of that stuff. I just know that moving forward, we're going to need skills that allow people to handle themselves, to be responsible for their own minds. We call that spiritual responsibility. And so I'm still like, figuring out how I want to do that. So I'll definitely make a list, and then I'll invite those people, everybody from the masterclass. Like I will need a session to tell you exactly what it is, so that afterwards you'll be like, oh, okay, I really see where he's coming from. That way you can decide if it's something that you want to be a part of or not, because make no mistake, it is 6 weeks and it would require daily exercises of about 8 minutes, 10 minutes to start. And then they would get progressively, longer as things stack on. But for the most part, it's shorter. It's, less than an hour, even in the late stages. But then we would also be meeting twice a week, right? In order to, like, as a group, in order to process, unpack, and then also, there would be lectures in that environment too. So I'm thinking about how I want to, present this all to you folks, basically as a thank you for coming to the master classes and being day ones. And so generally speaking, it'll be something that, again, is free in the sense that you're not paying me, but an investment in the sense that you'll find a nonprofit or a charity or some place to bless, and you'll give them $500 or whatever the case is, and then we'll rock, and so so be on the lookout for that email, because in that email I'll have more of I'll just basically tell I'll give you the deal there, and so yeah, so I will be in that top 5. Okay, Shango, we gotta get you out of the work. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm really trying to figure out, when can you make it, player? Because that would be the thing. Is that the reason I want it to be an investment is because obviously if you give it to a nonprofit, it's a write off. You know what I'm saying? So that's cool. But the ability to bless somebody else, even as you're getting your own training, I mean, to me, it's perfect because the donation to a charity, it represents what the primary lesson, which is that when you give to someone else, you are given to you. That the distinction between self and other isn't real; it's an illusion, right? So spiritual responsibility is acting from the position of higher consciousness, and so it's just a wonderful way to initiate and kick off this program. And so yeah, Shango, we got to get you in, because every single person, I would need you to be at every single class. We meet twice a week, and then you would have your assignment for the day plus your journal exercise, all of these things to design to take you deeper and deeper and deeper. And then we would meet on a twice a week basis, so that you could so that you're in community, but also so that we're getting even deeper together. You dig what I'm saying? So anyway, if you're on the email list, that is definitely for you. I want you to be in that, in that initial 5, especially it's y'all know who you are. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody who's still up on here. That's something I definitely want. I definitely want for you. And before I do that, we'll have a day where I say, hey, look, y'all, we're meeting today so I can explain to you exactly what this is. Exactly, because you need to understand, like, how did I arrive at 36 grand? You know what I'm saying? So, at any rate, we'll do that on another day. Keep that posted. I'm thinking the Thursday following this one. So I'm thinking our first sort of information meeting would be the 26th of October. And I will be looking to get rolling, let's see, it's Wednesday, November 1, in terms of that first initial, group. So at any rate, folks, thank you so much for joining on this special broadcast. I hope that you were able to get something out of, even if it's just being able to pay attention more to the phantom zone, more to when you're in that gap experience. And certainly I'm hoping that you're able to access that dimension of love within you and use it in order to take control and take back your spiritual mind. And so, it's been a blast seeing y'all for the first time in a few months. I'm still trying to get I'll figure out the stream thing, by next time. And as we go, it'll get better and better. Dee Dee, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Dee Dee saying thank you, Dr. Shawn. I'm saying thank you so much for coming in and vibing this long. And we'll keep everything on the open in terms of the following week. The informational for, Kit Mastery Training. It's called Kit Mastery Training. So it's called Conscious Transformation Technology Mastery Training. Conscious Transformation Technologies the wording is great for helping you understand what it is, but you say it too many times, it's just too many times, right? So it's Kit Mastery Training, and it's actually, version 3.0, which y'all experienced was a piece of 2.0. Now it's 3.0. And so it's dude, I cannot wait. I can't wait. So, Shango saying thank you, and everyone. Kamar saying this was truly a treat and a blessing. I'm saying y'all are the blessing, and I'll see you next week, definitely, for sure. And so, by the way, if that exercise, I would love to hear where you are with that exercise, the love exercise, the Ascended Love Conscious Transformation Technology. If there are particular nuances, I would just love to hear your experience with it. Definitely email me at, let me see if I can put my email in this chat, at team Dr. Shawn Smith .drshawn.smith.media. What is my email? Hold up there. Let me find out what my email is, man. All right. Yeah, okay. Team Dr. Shawn Smith at drshawn.smith.media. Right on. Okay, I'm just gonna put this in the chat. Because I would love to know what your experience is like, so that I'm able to start to address the levels and the layers right, with each of you individually. And so definitely hit me up for that, because I'd frankly just be curious. Not to mention, it's also helpful to be able to reflect on any sort of exercise that you're doing, because we want to be able to catch all the gems that are available for us, the ones that happen inside of the training and also the ones that happen just after it. Um, so Shango, yeah, exactly. I'm definitely looking forward to hearing it. Shango saying I will be in touch in short order. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, y'all. I'm gonna say have a blessed evening. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.